This is a nuts and bolts type of a talk, and there should be just a brief outline at your table. If anyone doesn't have one, someone in here has the handout. We chose this title to try to capture your imagination, identifying your occupational sweet spot. And let me hasten to say right up front that if you're sort of feeling a little squeamish about coming to some talk about finding your sweet spot, that you may be in the minority, I want to assure you that you're not. I have been assisting adults with this very topic for over 30 years. And as the nation matures, and we've heard the term baby boomers, this continually comes up over and over and over again, particularly at midlife. Probably the person that said it best was a Hewlett-Packard engineer. He was an ME, and he looked at me, he was 45 years old, and he said, you know, I'm 45, I'm a successful person by my job and what I do. I'm still waiting to see what I'm going to be when I grow up. I have heard that statement, waiting to see what I'm going to be when I grow up, time and time and time again. So if you're in that category, you are in the majority. And there are lots of statistics, you know, the 60%, the 80% of people are frustrated with their work and so on and so on. The word sweet spots, though, kind of introduces a question. Is there a sweet spot? Is that possible? And so that is the target area. And what I'm hoping to do in our short time together is to give you a grid and outline, and in a very practical sense, something that can be done that will help you define some benchmarks of what your particular sweet spot looks like. As we consider identifying a sweet spot, and I'm moving now to your notes, the first item on the notes there highlights the term your life purpose. It's pretty hard to identify a sweet spot without addressing the issue, well, what is my purpose in life? What is it that I am here for? And as we discuss that, there are a couple of different approaches here. Number one, we can sense that, well, I'm just here, I just happened. And as we consider that, if I'm just here and I just happened, then it's going to be up to me to figure out how to win this game, and before I die, to get to the top. And so I need to get about busy figuring out the best way to get the farthest I can. A second approach is to consider that I was created. There is someone, a higher power out there that made me for a purpose. And that purpose includes part of my wiring, how I'm put together. Now we're going to consider both approaches, and interesting either way. You may want to look at this. It does lead about to the same point, because in order for us to identify our sweet spot, we do need to take an inventory of some kind as to our assets. So with that question posed, let's go to step one. And in order to do this in 20 minutes or less, I really have to boil down things to a very small, simple process. Step one, identify your strengths. It really does make a difference when we're trying to identify our sweet spot, what it is we're measuring. And to simplify and then broaden, I want to introduce to you two major categories of your traits and aptitudes that are most critical. The first I identify as your motivational characteristics. Motivational characteristics means all of those qualities and traits that represent the fire in the belly, the passion, Most of us, and if we were to take a survey, I'd probably get 100% here. Most of us want to make a difference with our life. Would you agree? Okay. Most of us want to have, you know, this figure of the grandchild on the knee, and here's what grandma, here's what grandpa accomplished or did. We want to make a difference. We want to, in a sense, leave our mark. And if you think about making a difference, it takes us beyond just the toil of work, and it begins to introduce the concept of mastery. This really comes to me. I have an intuitive sense about this. Now, motivational characteristics need to represent something that gets you all fired up and gets you excited and makes you want to jump out of bed in the morning and I just can't wait. And you hear the statement, you know, I have to pinch myself that I actually get paid for what I'm doing. There really are people out there that say that. And they didn't just fall into their jobs. They did some careful planning. So we're taking all those qualities and traits that you have that represent the pieces of our work life, the beautiful environment that's out there that causes you to be excited and attracted to certain things. And if we want to get some technical terms in the world of assessment, for those of you that may be in that area, today I find just about everyone has gone through some kind of Myers-Briggs or Perform-X disc or some system, some instrument. But we're talking about primarily your interests, things you're attracted to, and your values, if you want to get technical as to what are the traits that represent your motivational characteristics. And what I have found in over 30,000 or so individuals that our firm has assisted in assessment and in career and midlife direction. Something that we are very interested in and something that we are highly feeling a value about. You put those two together and they basically overshadow common sense or reason. It just compels us, yes. So I'm putting that as the first category of qualities and traits that you want to consider. And all you need is a blank piece of paper. And you start writing down what needs doing out there, what gets me excited, and what gives me a sense of feeling like I'm making a difference, and just start writing. And I mean, I can give you some technical exercises and so on, but that will get you a long ways. Now, before you get too far on that list, I'm introducing a second very important quality or trait category, and that's number 2 on your list, skills. Now, skills represent some kind of aptitude, and there are 2 types of skills. The first is one you're very familiar with, and these are your occupational skills, your job skills. These are the things that you, quote, know how to do. I can do this, I can do that. You might even get to the point of saying, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. One of my professional areas of expertise is helping people with resumes, and when you do job interviews, you know, the whole idea is how good are you good at whatever it is. Well, you know, I've been doing it for 10 years, I've been doing it 15 years. How many managers do we have here? Okay. Now, managers, is there a difference between somebody who's been doing something for 15 years and somebody who has been doing something for 15 years and every year they get better and better and better at it? Big difference, okay? And the reason I pose that question is because it leads us to the second category of skills. Yes, there are skills that are identified as innate. They come natural. Let me give you an example. One of the areas of profession that I've specialized in, other than engineering, and by the way, I'm one of the good guys, I don't slam engineers. I do know the difference between an ME, a ChemE, a double E, an Ag E, an Aerospace E. In my early career life, I was the chair that hosted the campus students at the University of California, Davis, with the Intels and the Hewlett-Packard and the engineering firms, the Shell Oils and the Bechtels and so forth. And I got to learn engineering firsthand. Actually, I fell in love with engineering, and if I had another life, I would have been a CE, actually, for those of you that are double E's or MEs. I'm getting digressed here. Now, where was I? I'm losing it. Innate, thank you very much. We're back to innate, okay? Now, our innate skills, the example I wanted to give you is in the area of dentistry. Everyone here has been to a dentist, most likely, okay? Now, would you like to know what separates the sheep from the goats in terms of your dentist who is innately gifted at that kind of work? Is there one innate trait that means that every day your dentist goes to work, he or she gets better and better and better, intuitively better at what they do? Any ideas from any of you? What might that be? Because they don't test this trait when you enter into dental school. I've done a little work and research on this. Okay, somebody? What?
Learning from their patients, being able to gain insight and diagnosis.
Good, okay. Learning from their patients, good. Any other? Yes.
Hand-eye coordination.
Good, hand-eye coordination, you're right. You're right on there. Tweezer dexterity. Now think about this. Some dentists go to work at the age of 45 and they say, I hope I don't make a mistake today. And by the time they're 45, there's a knot in their stomach. You don't know they're making a mistake. I mean, how much of a mistake is a little millimeter of just being one off with that drill? Zzz, oh. And the thing they teach you in dental school is not to say, oops. Now, the dental assistant may say it, but not the dentist. Okay? You don't know what's going on in your mouth. All you know is maybe you got the Novocaine or whatever, and whoops, looks like we need to change that inner filling or something. However, the individual who's innately talented or gifted with tweezer dexterity goes to work every day with the thrill of the challenge of every patient. And every patient is a new threshold of accomplishment. And every year that goes by, they intuitively get better and better. One of the benchmarks of an innate trait is a process of self-learning by trial and error. Trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. And after a while, somewhere around 50, 55, if we stay on what we're doing, there's this term called mastery. And you've heard people say they'll get up, you know, so-and-so's been in the field for 20 years or so, and they will say to you, you know, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I feel like I just got started. I just had this breakthrough. That is a master craftsperson speaking to you. They've been at it that long. The rest of us, we're just learning the tricks of the trade, which we can apply, but we're applying them robotically, okay? So what I'm introducing to you as you think about your occupational sweet spot is first that you do have qualities and traits about you that fit in this category of motivational traits, motivational aspects that get the fire in the belly going, get you a sense of making a difference with your life. I want to do something. And in addition to those qualities and traits, you do have skills. You have skills you've learned how to do on the job, and you've been doing them for years. And then in addition, you have innate skills. Now here's the irony of the whole thing. And this isn't just my opinion. Peter Drucker shares this as well as many professionals in our field. Most working adults do not know the difference between skills that they know how to use and do at work versus innate skills that come natural. They basically know, I can do that, and I'm pretty good at it. The question is, as you continue to do it, is there this intuitive sense of getting better and better and better? Now, I'm hoping to pique your curiosity to want to know the difference, and I'm giving you some definitions. What are those things where there's just this intuitive sense of getting better, as clearly defined as that tweezer dexterity? Every job has somewhere between 1 to 2 basic required traits, just as tweezer dexterity for dentists. There are other qualities and traits for engineers. Some of you may be engineers. One of those that I recommend is the intuitive sense of problem solving. There is a knack, they're just people that have a gut sense. They just kind of hunker down. That's a self-selection process sometimes for those of us at the college level and are thinking about what major to have. And we're reasonably good at math. And so we start thinking, oh, you know, be a professional problem solver. And so what are some of the, I'm kind of technically oriented, and so engineering is certainly an option of that. So we've now defined how to look at our strengths. And I'm saying, even though it's easy for you to list the things that give you passion and excitement, you're motivational, becomes a little more difficult for you to identify the skills that are innate versus the skills that are more learned. But you still need to have something you're good at doing, okay? So you can pull out a pad of paper, start listing your skills, just go ahead and list them, and try to separate. Maybe, and we're just talking a handful, like 3 or 4. Now, I deal with a database of 54 traits defined as innate, where each person has somewhere between 5 to 9. And when we're talking about the sweet spot, the real doing of the job, the hands-on, we're only looking at a very small number, let's say 3, maximum 4, of a person's innate skills to identify that sweet spot. Now let's go to step 2, because this is also a very critical piece as you envision how to identify your sweet spot. Matching your strengths. We've identified categories of strengths, and now we're going to matching. By the way, we're going to have some Q&A time, so if there's some technical things that you want to know about, Jeff is going to jump up here and lead us in our Q&A. Let's talk about matching our strengths. Well, once we take the inventory of all these qualities and traits, the ultimate goal is, for the sweet spot, I want to be doing something that really gets me excited, that really gives me a sense of making a difference with my life, a sense of purpose, that's A, and B, something that I'm good at doing, okay? Now you may say, well, that doesn't sound that complicated. Well, the problem is, we can get very excited about something, and the strength of our educational system is so good that we can talk ourselves into doing that and climb up the ladder that's leaning against the wrong building. And consequently, that's where we go back to the 45-year-old Hewlett-Packard engineer, mechanical engineer, that said to me, I'm still waiting to see what I'm going to be when I grow up. And it's time after time after time that I find particularly professionals that are very intentional about their work life. They want to do something more than get a paycheck. That's what they're saying. How do I know that this is my sweet spot? How do I know that this is the very best that I could be doing? I'm still not satisfied with just B+. I'd like to be a lot more intentional. So the formula that I recommend for the matching process is as follows. You take your motivational qualities and traits, those characteristics that give you a sense of making a difference. Perhaps you want to make a difference in the lives of troubled youth. Perhaps you want to make a difference in the nature of how the environment is cared for. Maybe you're just absolutely consumed with the excitement of scientific discovery, or the homeless who are continued to be down in the gutter of society and caring for them, whatever that is. And you just have a passion. I want to make some kind of contribution there. Now, that passion, that excitement defines the type of organization. The type of organization. How do you know the types of organizations? Well, federal government has had some work at this and classified types of organizations by a system called the Standard Industrial Classification Code, SIC. That system has now been upgraded to, I believe it's called the NAISCS. It has been, that's part of this trade agreement with Mexico and Canada, where they've come up with a universal coding system that works for all three nations. But pretty much the standard of industry is still using the SIC system. And there's a code for just about everything that breathes out there as far as types of companies. You can get this in library directories, and you can also get this online. Just remember SIC. And that gives you the full range. That's nonprofits, that's ministry service, that's government agencies, as well as our typical corporations and small businesses. That defines. So your interests define the type of organization that you aspire to. Then we go to the job title. The job title is defined by your skills. What is it that you're good at doing? But it's the job title within the organization that represents your passions. Where a lot of people get confused is they start saying, well, you know, I'm kind of thinking about counseling, or I'm kind of thinking about being with people, maybe public relations. Well, what is public relations? It's not a company or type of industry, and it's not even a job title. It's in the middle somewhere. Public relations agent would be a job title, and public relations company or ad company would be the organization. And certainly you could have both. So to identify your sweet spot, it needs to be clear in your mind for your goal. You can't have a goal, you can't have a target without each of those components. A type of organization that represents something important that needs doing with your life, and then a job title which represents your optimum contribution, where you can see in your lifetime that there's a continuous process of improvement and growth. Unless the tree grows, it dies. And you have this sense of the tree starting out in a terracotta pot, maybe about this big. And as that tree grows, what happens? If it stays in that pot, it becomes root bound. And so eventually, the good gardener or homemaker realizes this tree doesn't look like it's progressing. We need to move it to a larger pot. Pretty soon it gets planted in the ground. Now, it would be a good vision for optimum sweet spot is that we are continuing to grow in the way that we are talented and gifted. Now, I started out our talk by tossing out the ultimate life purpose. And I introduced the question, which is the ultimate, of if we view life from the standpoint that I'm just here, and it's whatever I end up doing that's going to give me a sense of value and purpose, that can be rather lonely and rather tough because you're writing the rules. And when the game is over, when our number is up, we hope that we played by the right rules, that we hope that however we decided things ought to be is right. The other approach is to acknowledge that there is a creator, the God of the universe that made us. That happens to be the position that I hold. The creator, the God of the universe, that has individually invented each of us. And so in that process said, well, in order to make the world go round, each of us have individual qualities, which I'm going to provide, so that there is a fair sprinkling among all of humanity, sufficient traits and qualities to get the job done. And I found in the counseling of thousands of men and women, as we discover those qualities and traits and then align ourselves, the sweet spot, the productivity of our work life becomes much, much more not only fulfilling, but there is a sense of harmony. There's a sense of purpose. And the rewards just continue, even beyond our imagination. Now, in conclusion, and we're going to have some time for Q&A, I wanted to reflect on the desire that each of us have an importance or sort of a quest for that our life reach some kind of importance. And I'm well into the midlife. I'm 58. A few years ago, I woke up and realized, you know, I've got probably about 15 years left. 15 years. Am I doing right now what I feel is my very best shot? And that has propelled me not only in my work, but it's also propelled me avocationally to think about things in the community that need doing. And so I wanted to leave you with this saying, and you've probably heard it before. We can spend our time really figuring out how to do something right. The job, the career, the work. Or we can spend our time figuring out how to do the right thing. And with that closing note, Jeff, you're here somewhere. Where are you? You're going to lead us in Q&A, and if there's anything I left out as far as topics or questions under the title, but just don't ask me about the beard. That'll get me way off on another thing.
Well, how about this? Actually, if I could start out with the first question. Now, when I go to the dentist tomorrow, should I bring the tweezers or? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Right now, all of you are sufficiently trained. And by the way, now that you introduced that one, not to make a long story, one of our major clients happens to be one of the largest dental laboratories here in the Northwest, if not on the West Coast. And they're not in the Portland area, but they're the biggest. And I was talking to the president, and I said, would you give me sort of a rundown opinion of how you view dentists in terms of the technical detail? And he just laughed. He says, I wish they screened dentists at dental school in terms of their innate capacity for precision detail, but they don't. You don't have to have that trait to pass dental school. So that's from somebody who's right there on the ground giving an opinion as to where we are.
Well, if I could start out the question and answer, if no one minds me asking the first question on a serious note here, the one thing that my eye kept drawing back to was the very thing at the very top of the page, and that was life purpose. So if I don't want my life person to be my occupation, my life purpose, to be my occupation, how do I figure out what my life purpose is?
That's a very good, there's a very good question, but it does come back to how we envision the sense of how we got here. How did I just show up? My particular opinion is that we are here for a purpose. There is a greater creator, a sustainer. There is a God of the universe, in my opinion, and that God of the universe has provided for us a guidebook called the Bible. One thing I forgot to mention is that I am a seminary graduate, and believe it or not, one of the occupations I do a lot of counseling in is clergy, men and women of the cloth, because they also have the same question. And in order to counsel and assist them, the guidebook and the rule book that they teach was one that I also used in understanding. So it is important, if we're dealing with the issue of life purpose, that we do address the issue. Am I here by accident, or am I a created being? And if so, how do I understand the Creator made me, and what are the guidelines that enable me to operate best? Yes,
that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions from the crowd? Right here.
What are the motivational characteristics and skills that enable a person to create their own organization, be an entrepreneur, as opposed to joining the best organization in the best position that already exists?
Very good question, and I'm going to try to, it's actually a very complex question, but I will try to make it simple, okay? I found two kinds of entrepreneurs. First, the entrepreneur, and let's just stay in the technical side because we're on the technical side of town. First, we have a programmer who is an ace. I mean, innately gifted, very astute, can make decisions quickly. And by that time, the person is 28, 30 years old. He begins to realize that he can make more money if he puts out his shingle in doing what he's doing than to work for his company. So he does, and money continues to flow, and the minute you have money, you can start hiring. And so now we have a business owner. And as long as the money keeps coming, and as long as this person continues to produce, we can have a company that is, quote, successful. All right, so that's entrepreneur A. Entrepreneur B has a vision of something that he or she wants to accomplish. And entrepreneur B needs other people to accomplish that vision and begins to recruit them towards the pursuit of the vision, which means then, in order for entrepreneur B to bring about the vision they have, they know they need, and they are intuitively wired to recruit, motivate, and empower the team, okay? So you have A and B. Now, which of the two are going to be more successful? It's a crapshoot for that, because bottom line, in business, we've got to be making money, okay? And so if entrepreneur A, I have a very good friend who has done extremely well in business, and he is entrepreneur A. He does very, very well. His name is highly regarded in his field. He puts his stamp on it. People are willing to pay for it. And he has offices in 3 states with a fairly large staff, and it all is under his name. It's his reputation, and he has set the standards, and he's recruited people that are loyal to him. He doesn't manage those people, but they're basically clones of him in a sense, okay? Entrepreneur B obviously has already a built-in system, but entrepreneur B may not be good on the profitability side. May be great with ideas and inventing, but is not as clear on how to make money. Sometimes they say if it takes you $1 to make the product, it's going to take you $3 to sell it. And entrepreneur B may be quite, the engineer or the individual. Now, there's another piece of your question, and I don't want to labor too long on this, and that is the motivational part. Yes, the entrepreneur needs some kind of excitement or risk that I'm willing to take, okay, in doing this. That is the motivational part, all right? So there is an innate talent for this entrepreneur B. There isn't necessarily an innate talent for entrepreneur A, except they are very good at a particular type of application. They do it intuitively well, and they're a relatively safe individual to be around, that they don't beat up people and have some, eccentricities that are distasteful, So there's a lot more to your question, but just in a Q&A sense, that's how I would answer that.
Okay, one more question over here.
I'm curious in your address.
Yes.
Offices,
Sure.
if you have asked folks who are
Yes. Okay. Yes, I have probed in that area. What? Repeat the question, Jeff. Did you get it? Or?
Yeah, yes, I did. The question was, in dentistry, do you find that some of these professionals have abilities in the artistic area? Is that a correct?
That's exactly
Wonderful.
right. My last
Yeah.
two dentists have also been artists.
Yes, right. Okay, a very astute question, because you're now getting into sort of what are the related families. Art happens to be, especially tracking, the way we identify innate traits is we look at the pattern of behavior in a person's life starting with high school. And one of the very common patterns of tweezer dexterity are simple things like building models. You know, somebody that builds models and they still leave a thumbprint of glue on, you know, the left side of the Ford pickup is not exactly tweezer dexterity. But someone who takes delight in painting the lug nuts silver of that 1939 Ford, maybe we got something here. I mean, takes delight in that, and still at the age of 40 is still painting, you know, airplanes and model ships. And we get into needlepoint, we get into macrame, we get into leather tooling and leather crafting, we get into calligraphy and so on. So there are certain aspects of art that are natural expressions of tweezer dexterity in terms of detail. So I would say from that standpoint. Now to go one step further, those that work in the dental lab arena, which means they actually make teeth, a lot of those are very artistically inclined because it is an aesthetic expression of making teeth, you see. And you can look at dentistry from a cosmetic standpoint of making a display that is pleasing to the eye. So I wouldn't say artists are good dentists. I wouldn't say dentists are good artists, but there is a common base, especially in handcraft, that could be a common place of exchange between the two, as long as the handcraft is very, very small and detailed. Great, good question.
Well, considering the time, we're committed to being done by 7:30 so everyone can get to work. But John, would you have a few minutes afterwards if there are any other questions?
Sure, yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, it's a round of applause, please, for John Bradley.